Call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, July 24th at 5:15. Need roll call?
Ernst. Commissioner Engel.
Here.
Commissioner Rollins. Commissioner Vogelsang. Commissioner Wright.
To the agenda. Right. Nope. Public requests. Do we have any public requests? Name and address.
Hi, I'm Dave Bracknell. I live in Boca Raton, 1025 Southwest 5th Street. I'm here again. I was here last year and you guys seen me a couple of times advocating disc golf still, particularly in Sugar Sand Park. I noticed, I've been, stalking you guys online. So I read the meetings from 6-5 and I saw that Commissioner Ernst requested that the outstanding disc golf questions be addressed. In the meantime, before he did that, a few weeks before I did that, I rode my bicycle because I live right here in the area. And I went through the park again and I just started thinking it's so perfect for disc golf. Others might not agree and such, but because today I went to Snyder Park in Fort Lauderdale. They have a disc golf course there. It's all under trees. I was there for 4 hours. I'm not sunburned or anything like that. It's beautiful. Everyone's trying to stay out the heat. But when I was at Snyder Park, I met one of the guys who ran the Disc Golf Association, and they got a disc golf designer there, and they just, in 3 months' time, they're getting pickleball there. That's a whole different subject. But anyway, they had to relocate 5 holes. And this is a big course there. So they relocated 5 holes. They have it all done. All they have to do is pour the tee pads and put in the baskets in 3 months. Simple. Working with the city of Fort Lauderdale, they own the park. They got an arborist out there and they got a cleaning crew and they just got it done. Real simple. Just wondering why we can't do something like that. On the 5th of July, I emailed to the staff of Brianna and Melissa and Joanne a PDF. I don't know if it was distributed or not. Was it? It was. Okay. So you'll see, I just had some ideas about the course. They were just thrown together real quick. And like I said, I'm here saying, hey, I'm willing to help. I've got lots of contacts. I can get you in contact with disc golf designers. I also noticed that they said, there might be other places like probably the new Ocean Breeze property that could house a disc golf course too, if it ever gets built, but it'll all be out in the open for winter. I think it's Ocean Breeze, right? Boca Chica. I'm sorry.
No?
North Park. No, sorry. Okay.
No, it's
So
okay.
that's an official word. So yeah, maybe it will. When it gets built, it could house one too. It'd be similar to like Tradewinds has an open course there too. So I'm here offering my services, help in any way, and like to just keep abreast of what's going on, keep the disc golf theme alive. Thank you.
Hello, Sil Silberti, 6200 Northwest 2nd Avenue, Boca Raton, Florida. I wanted to come up here for the public record and because I went against some of my allies with submitting a name and basically what I wanted to say was, I mean, I had trouble. I couldn't make the meeting. I had trouble even watching it. It was just very intense for me. But I know not every one of the commissioners is happy. It reminds me of the late great Joan Rivers talking about her deceased husband. She said when he was alive, she's married, she's happy. She's not happy, but she's happy. So I know some of the commissioners, it wasn't their first choice, wasn't their second choice, but getting back to the allies, what I was thinking was if you had North Park East and North Park West, because obviously one is going to be developed much later, and they did do the golf, which I'm hoping maybe you could get it, North Park West, a fresh Ocean Breeze or the new Ocean Breeze at North Park. Because obviously I did love the Ocean Breeze name, but like, I think I forget which commissioner, but when you Google it, it does have some other connotations on it. So maybe we could revamp that in there. So I just I wanted to throw that out there for my friends that I made a little upset. Thank you.
Okay, so we will close public requests and we'll do approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting.
Approve.
Commissioners, I'd like to add a change to the minutes. On the section about the tower, the cell phone tower at Sugar Sand Park, we'd like to change some of the comments in there where Commissioner Ernst statements to read the following. Commissioner Ernst expressed support for exploring all options related to installing a cell tower within Sugar Sand. However, Commissioner Ernst objected to the appearance, location, and providing HON towers a single source. The cell tower award without exploring competitive alternatives, typically awarded through an RFP process. The presenter, Mr. Hahn, indicated he would not participate in an RFP process. So we would amend, we'd like to amend those minutes. If we can get a motion to include those amendments, would be great.
Joanne?
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
On to regular business.
Commissioners, the next item on your agenda is the Sugar Sand Park Fieldhouse Chiller and Pumps infrastructure. So as part of our ongoing replacement of roofs, the roof design at the field house was ongoing. CGA noted that the infrastructure that houses the chiller and pumps on the roof is in severe disrepair. This was not noted earlier, but we did bring in city staff. So CGA and municipal services staff agree that this has to be corrected. The city already has the chiller equipment ready, but we need to get the infrastructure replaced prior to that. So CGA put together a work order for designing this. We do not have any idea on the cost of the project because we don't know the materials or the size or anything like that. So right now we're just looking for approval tonight of the work order to design that infrastructure as presented.
To make a motion to approve the $38,444 for CGA to proceed with it. But I'd also like to add at the discretion of the executive director to increase it if needed by $5,000 for additional work. And the reason I say that is the chiller system is very integral to the whole, field house. And it's really important for them to take the opportunity to look at it carefully for redundancy. If they need to ever hook up a chiller at the lower level instead of on the upstairs part of it, but this is the time to do infrastructure repairs or look at it and design it so that they have a lot of opportunity. It's a safe place, and that's what we need. So I just want to make sure that the executive director has authority to do additional work if it needs.
Joanne?
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, and Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 2, CGA additional services agreement.
Yeah, commissioners, on page 12 of your agenda packets, there's a memo, and then following that is a work order for additional services for the Swim and Racket Center project. It was mislabeled in their original, so we would change the title to say regarding Swim and Racket Center tennis court lighting project. So this is to get the as-built drawings done for the electrical work that has to be done to close out the permit. It was not included in the original scope of work. It will not ever not be included again. But we do need, we're looking for approval tonight of this work order for the amount as presented.
Approve a work order from CGA in the amount of $4,947.
Joanne?
Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, and Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to number 3, city budget request 2024.
I'm not ready for this yet. I didn't know it was going to be this quick. We're going to talk about the city budget first. Tonight, we're not approving the budget. I want to be clear to everybody, this isn't a budget approval. This is just looking for consensus from this board. Because I have to talk with them each individually and get their ideas, and then I just need them to all cohesively say, we'll support this. Just looking tonight for consensus to approve the city budget as it was submitted to us. We are not obligated to the Spanish River Maintenance Facility project, so I would like to leave that out of the budget that we move forward with. And again, just reminding everybody that we're not approving the budget tonight, but I just need numbers to go forward so we can plan our budget for the next meeting. Go ahead. I just can't.
Tough one. So, but I guess I went through the budget in detail with Brianne, and I gotta thank city staff, Jill Dixon, who came back with a very good response. I met with Melissa, I met with Brianne and the whole thing, and it was informative. It's big, it's complex. There's a lot of detail in there. But the bottom line is this meeting is for setting a rate that will ultimately, we will determine more budgetary items later in September. So if you pick a rate that is higher than the rate we picked today, you can't do that. So you have to pick a rate today, and then you have to kind of fine tune your budget in detail. I don't think we're quite there yet on fine tuning the budget in detail. So the safe thing is you have a current rate out there of 1.08 millage rate. Oh, okay. I'm ahead of you.
I'm not on the millage rate yet. I just want to get some consensus on the city
the
budget
budget.
that was presented. If we're good to move forward, as we're going to talk about the millage rate last. I saved the best for last.
So are you suggesting we're accepting the city budget today?
That
completely?
you give, if you have consensus and you guys are comfortable moving forward with budgeting for those items, we will make a final approval, obviously at our final public hearing. But if there's other things that you'd like me to leave out, or you want to add the Spanish River Maintenance Facility, and we can, I just want to get some consensus on those items.
So we're talking about this list, right? 17.
Yes. So overall, the city budget request was down 3.27%. The total request is 27,592,800. I would suggest that we take the 83 out of there for the Spanish River Maintenance Facility, and plan for that number as we put this budget together based on the millage rate you guys proposed tonight.
Well, I'd also suggest we take out the Patch Reef pickleball. The assumption in the budget is that the city is running it and we haven't awarded it. We haven't decided anything on that one yet. And until we do, we can come back and amend it, but they've assumed that they're taking it over and they're going to staff accordingly.
My only reluctance with that, and I just want to make everybody aware that the HR process with the city is very difficult and convoluted. So if we approve the positions now, then if we do decide that the city is going to run that facility, they can fill those positions. If we don't, they'll have to go back to HR. It will just take longer to get those things staffed. So it's not impossible. And I agree that it may not be the city running it. We have an RFP that comes back this week on that, but But
the timeline for that is we haven't even have a facility built and we've been delayed. So the likelihood of it even getting built and done.
oh, we're going to
this
build it
time
next year.
is
We're going to
low.
build it next year. It's going to be built next year. And if we need the city to run it, they would need a lot of leadway. It takes a lot of time to fill these positions. That's my concern. If we pull that, and then we have to go back through and get those positions approved.
I have delayed if we have to go back to HR and get these positions.
We'll put Melissa over there and run that facility if we have to. We won't get anything else done, but we'll put Melissa over there to run it.
So like,
I mean, how much are we talking?
Time wise,
No, cost wise.
it's
For the-
well, 250,000 for the
Okay.
staffing and stuff, but we can take it out, but I just am concerned about filling those positions if the city is the operator, because I'd love to give you a ballpark number on how long that takes. I mean, they are struggling to fill a lot of positions, especially in recreation. So to get those positions first added into personnel in the middle of the budget season, I think is a process. I'm just putting that out there, that's a concern that I have.
So,
We will work with whatever the board decides.
yeah. But if we were to pull this money out, we might be adding at least several months onto the end of this project because you can't have a pickleball facility without people running it.
Melissa over there, she'll take care of it. But yes,
Yeah.
we will delay it. All
Yeah,
jokes
I
aside,
know
yes.
Melissa's great, but only one person can only do so much. So it probably would behoove us, and I know I've had issues with the way the city budgets personnel. But I guess it might behoove us just to leave the money where it is, because we don't know. And that money will come back to us if we don't use it.
And you guys may be looking at proposals in August and decide by the end of the budget, we're not going to have the city or we are. And however you want to do it, I just want to just put it out there that I think we need to consider that revenue or that money in there.
Okay.
Historically, we have done exactly that on things that where the future was unknown. And even as last year, when in our budgeting process, the previous fiscal year, we had revenue that came back to us from the city from delayed projects and personnel that were not hired. And that's always been a problem since the first year I was on this commission. I would prefer leaving it in there myself. And I think that I'd rather do that than to have a further delay in the project than what we already have. And $250,000 is not going to be a major determining factor as to whether or not we raise our millage rate or go to rollback or keep it the same. So I appreciate our treasurer looking at things like this because that's what he does. But I think in this case here, I'd want to keep that in the budget.
And is Greg Stevens on? Maybe we could ask him and he could. Okay. If we heard it from the horse's mouth, it would be,
Time frame of what it would take to hire the staff. Okay.
Conceptually, I'm okay with the city budget. I think there's a lot there, but I still would recommend taking the 250 out only because the 250 is, to me, there's plenty of time frame to decide when we're gonna make a decision on who's going to be awarded the business. And keep in mind, head count triggers overhead. Although you get your people count back, and the city's pretty good about giving back, if a position's not filled, it is later, after the budget cycle's over, they return a credit back to us. But when you go through the mechanics of the overhead of everything, and there's a lot of overhead here, I don't believe that comes back. So it's allocations that are out there that it's more than 250. So we'll get to that another day, but conceptually it's a net. It's a very small minor thing compared to the rest of the budget, but I would not want to discourage any bidders who are going to participate in that to find the best available services for pickleball.
Okay. We can certainly take that out.
I'd just like to reiterate what Craig said as far as the budget goes. I mean, I think Greg did a great job putting it together this year. There are things in there that, I don't like the educational stipends that they give to people, and they don't require them to be job specific. But yet we're still paying for those kind of things. The administrative cost. I mean, there are other little tacky things if you want to take a couple of hours to go through here, but I mean, it's not worth the savings that we get in eliminating some of these or spending time addressing those. The one thing had talked to Brienne about was the Spanish River Maintenance Facility. I was opposed to us participating in that and saw no reason why we should. Our equipment has been sitting out there in the parking lot there at the Red Reef Golf Course and hadn't been an issue so far. I mean, so I'm comfortable with this as a start, you know, and the assistance in setting a millage rate, you know, and when we get to that, you know, have some comments too about this. But I'm actually comfortable with the budget from the standpoint of I think the increase was a very nominal increase in the budget this year, and there was not a great deal of. I was speaking to one retired commissioner. He said, "Are you going to complain about the vehicles again?" Because that was one of my pet peeves, and I said, "No, sir. I'm comfortable with what we're doing this year with our fleet schedule that the city's charging us for." So, unless you wanted to go through it, and you can see I've got my book marked, but there was really nothing significant. The only other issue that maybe there's clarity on is that, and I asked Brienne this question, was most of these different profit centers that we have, whether, you know, the Red Reef, Hatch Reef, DeHornley, there's a line item there that says liability insurance. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brienne, you said that our liability insurance doesn't extend to say Spanish River Park, and that's the reason why the city has a charge there.
Correct. Any of the parks that we don't own, they carry on their insurance. The ones that we own, we carry.
So if something happens over there and our name is out there associated with this park, are we going to get third partied in, and do we have defense for that under
We-
the city's policy?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, and we have been before.
Okay, so that was the only other thing that I was just curious about, and appreciate you confirming that. So we have our own liability insurance for Patry Park and Sugar Sand Park. So, okay, and we have the city as an additional insured on our policy. So it's vice versa with the city at DeHornley.
Yes.
Okay.
Greg just weighed in on it would be 4 to 6 months to hire staff. So if they had an idea when we would open, then they would start the process, you know, 6 months prior. So to Craig's point, if we want to pull that out, we can certainly pull that out and just plug it back in along the way for the pickleball. I mean, we're definitely going to be I don't know, 12 months before it's open.
Can we also see what we get back at the end of this week?
Yeah.
And then decide after that?
You do not approve this budget till September, so you
Right.
have plenty of time.
Well, I'm in consensus with what Bob said. Spanish River Park Maintenance Facility. I agree. I think we should take that out. And then I mean, not much else to really discuss right now. She's just asking for consensus on the general outline that we have here. So unless we have further discussion on it. Susie?
As far as the DeHornley maintenance facility, we have capped that amount that we approved, and we're not going to go any farther. Is that correct?
Yes, they're going to pull the furniture request from our budget. I asked Greg for that when we met last week, so that's coming out already.
Just, you know, just for the public's information, you see all these large landscaping companies that they have a central area where they have all their equipment, and they move it from project to project. And so if we have all of our equipment at DeHornley or at Sugar Sand, it can be moved to some of our other parks where maintenance needs to be done. It doesn't, you know, they have equipment to move it. So I don't think that we have an obligation to fund the Spanish River Park maintenance facility. So just my 2 cents.
I'm in total agreement with Bob. There's little things you go through it on the overall scope. We're good with it. Are we saying then, we're approving this whole thing tonight, excluding Spanish River, or we're saying we're deferring the approval of the city budget, but conceptually, we all agree with the general nature of the budget and we're good. So we're good to go. Next step.
Vote on that because it just was looking for a okay.
For a line item consideration, otherwise not mentioned by motion, then the answer is you can, by consensus, you don't disagree. Better said, you agree.
Yes, let's go on before anybody changes their mind. The district budget on page 18, I typed up a memo kind of to review where we are with CIP projects that everybody has, that we've approved for next year that we need to do for maintaining our facilities, keeping them open. We talked about the sugar sand roof replacements for the field house, the quad, the duplex. As noted earlier, we approved that replacement of the infrastructure for the chiller pump that came during the design process for that roof at the field house. We have designs for the Patch Reef Park roofs, Sugar Sand Park field house generator, swim and racket center pool resurfacing design, Sugar Sand Park column repairs. That was approved this year. We're going to try to get it started with the roofing project. We're just waiting to see how that moves forward through the building to see if we can get both projects done without too much disruption to our patrons. We had some additional projects that were recommended over this year to develop. The board decided to include shade coverage in all future budgets. So we, to be decided project for shade coverage, we plugged in 1.25. We have the Patch Reef Park playground renovations. It's currently in design. That's something that the board voted on to do this year. So we would put in 2.5 next year for that project. Sounds high for a playground, but we're going to have to also revamp the parking lot and the restrooms as part of the project. And then we planned years ago as our part of our North Park project allocation to put 3 million in there. We have some other obligations, obviously annual beach renourishment sinking fund, the FAU field rentals. We have a community redevelopment agency contribution, and based on our current millage rate, if we kept it, that's $2.5 million that goes to downtown, to projects unknown. Then we have the North Park bond payoff sinking fund, which is something this board directed us to budget for in the coming years. So that's 1.87. And then our district operational expenses, that includes salaries, insurance, legal fees, marketing, our independent contractors, and the maintenance of North Park, which is around 350,000 a year. So that's 2.8 million. So in total, between the city's request and all the things we need, projects that we have on our plates today, like the Patch Reef pickleball, closing out some of these other projects, the roof at Sugar Sand Community Center. We need an additional around 45 million next year. I think it's 44.5 to cover everything. So if everybody's good with these district budget items, the CIP items, I'm just looking consensus today for those things. If you want to add anything to the list or take anything away from the list, we can do that just so we can plan a budget. But you guys will then be discussing tentative millage rates, and I have some comments on that too. But I just wanted to get some idea of where we are with our district projects and if everybody's comfortable with the projects we talked about still.
And on district projects.
And the fact that, I'm in concurrence with the projects that we have listed out there. And note the addition, when you add the two together, I can see where Brian comes up with the total that we need in terms of revenue. Knowing that, some of this money will not be spent. As always, we have some carryover into next year. But I think I want to say, I think the projects, we've edited those pretty well, and I feel pretty comfortable with those projects, and wouldn't take anything away if we are able to find a way to fund them.
I think what we have on our plates is, are things that we need to do. And I'm comfortable with all the things that are listed here. And, I know we're going to find a way to make it work. Do we have we won't have an idea of what we're getting back from the city for the last fiscal year till September, am I correct?
That's correct. I mean, I could estimate between 1.5 to 2 million back. So when we talk about the millage rate, I have some input on that. and where we would get, if we kept the millage rate the same, where we could make up that 44.5 million that we need.
Okay, thanks.
And I talked with Brianne and Melissa. One item that was out there was possibly deferring the pool resurfacing is a small amount. So
We did talk to city staff. They'd prefer to move forward with it just because the kiddie pool and the hot tub need to be done. I mean, they can't be put off. We could
okay.
just do those small ones, but it seems like just get it all done in one design and then bid those out.
Okay. I'm fine with it. But I do think for the pool deck was all redone. When we redid this, we never painted any of the pool fencing. And it seems like a good idea to paint it.
I have asked for that and I'm told it's on a work order. The city has a
Okay.
work order with a painter and it's been quite a while. I mean, it's not like I requested it yesterday, but it's on that. I'm just told it's on the list.
Good.
So
Good.
we'll keep following up.
And then the other item is the generator at Sugar Sand. You're going to look into just getting the manufacturer's opinion before we were, dive into replacement.
We'll come back with an actual proposal. We just wanted to allocate some funds for it.
Just allocating funds is good, but if we don't need to do it, we don't want to do it. But then, and then the last thing is just kind of to consider it more probably for the city, and maybe down the road we can do it, but collectively, do we need a new software for scheduling stuff? And is the city working on anything towards that? Because, that's the number one complaint I always hear from people is, no one's on the field and I can't schedule it. And it just seems like when you I just went to Collier County website and it's pretty darn good. It goes park by park, is tile labeled, you know what you're getting to. We should get with
Greg,
the times.
Greg has some ins with the IT department.
Okay,
So
good.
I will talk to him and see if there's any plans to change anything. I know they've just upgraded RecTrack. I don't know if they've rolled it out yet. I know it will be a good rollout and they will test things before they roll it out to make sure everything transfers over. But I'll touch base with Greg and follow up on that.
You just want to support whatever it is. Okay.
Like all the projects, I would like to see all of them done. I doubt that we'll get all of them done in the next fiscal year, but I know you and Melissa and Joanne will do your best to get it completed. I think that Greg has done and his staff have done a really good job in informing us. And I'd like for you to convey that, we really appreciate all the work that's gone into this budget.
Listening right now, so I'm sure they appreciate that.
You to Greg and his staff, and not to say everything all over again. So I'm in agreement as well.
Great. So now we got to talk about a tentative millage rate. And on page 20 of your agenda packets, put together some notes on the tentative millage rate. Kind of gave you guys a proposal of what the rollback rate would be, what our current rate would bring in based upon the property values that we got from the property appraiser. So as I said, we need about 45 million. Looking at our current rate, we would get about, if we collected everything, we usually budget at 97% collection, we would get about 41 million. We also get revenues back and we also get a return money back. And we also have a treasurer who has worked tirelessly to make sure we make some interest on our money. So we'll probably close the year with about 2 million in interest as well. So those are some ways that we would make up the difference if we kept the millage rate the same. Obviously, if the board wants to go in a different direction and lower that rate, we will obviously work on the budget to meet your proposed rate. And then I also put in your folders, there's the notice that was in the city agenda packet for their meeting tomorrow night, what they're keeping their millage rate the same. And then we have, I think this is 20 years of previous district millage rates in your folder as well.
Madam Chair, as everyone knows, whatever millage rate we set, we will not be able to increase it, but we can always reduce it. I noted that the city has kept their millage rate the same. I know the county had a reduction in their millage rate, but I still would be in favor of a rate going forward of $1.8 million because that's really pretty skinny in terms of revenue versus expenses that we have, knowing when I say that there's a lot of projects that don't get finished during the year. So we, if it was a finance situation where everything was spent that we budgeted, it'd be a little bit different story. Plus, we have a little extra coming in from the city that we project, may help us. But as we've found before in our previous years, there is an occasional need that we find that we have for an item that was unbudgeted, that where we may need funds. And I really believe that the correct position for us to take would be the keeping our millage rate at 1.08 mils.
On that? We need a motion. You want to make a motion, Bob?
Sure, I didn't hear any objections, so I assumed that was going to be acceptable. Madam Chair, I propose that we publish a rate of 1.08 mils, which is the same rate going forward in the next fiscal year for the Beach and Park District.
Second.
Nope. Joanne?
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to approval of payroll and invoices. Craig?
I'd like to make a motion for approval of payroll and invoices in the amount of $357,636.66.
Joanne?
Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Items?
I mentioned earlier, we will be getting proposals this week for the operator of the Patch Reef Pickleball Center. So once we get those in, we'll get those out to you all. We did get proposals back for the racket sports facility at North Park. My gosh. So we'll need to put that as an agenda item for the next meeting to discuss. If you all want to rank them first, or if you want to schedule interviews, we'll talk about that at the next meeting. We won't do that tonight. And then just on the Patch Reef Park Pickleball facility, the staff has finished their commentary. So now we have to go before these boards. I'll be attending with staff and with CGA, the Environmental Advisory Board meeting on Thursday at 6 o'clock. And then we have planning and zoning next week on August 3rd. So we'll go through those. That's all I have.
We've had some lack of response from legal counsel for JJ Morley. They're the ones that got the temporary construction easement, as you may remember. They were given 90 days to basically vacate the property, and I've been asking that they confirm their removal from the property. We have no independent evidence from the attorneys for JJ Morley that they're actually off our property, and we intend through the director to send a notice of default under the document to make sure that whatever legal rights we have are perfected and furthered in the context of their apparent noncompliance. Brianne's not been out there of late, but she's aware.
I think we're looking at them. They had 90 days. They needed 90 days, and then they were going to replace the vegetation
Correct.
and do the asphalt path. So they are not on the property, but
need
they
to
have not fixed what
done
they
the
left.
corrections that they
Correct.
committed to in the document. So a default notice would actually perhaps energize their activity. We support that, and we'd be happy to communicate that to the legal counsel. We've had a certain lack of communication, which is unfortunately the case, but we do have some legal rights under the terms of the TCE, which is the temporary construction easement. And with your concurrence, absent any violation of anything further, we would work with Brianne and make sure a letter is sent out within the next day or so to confirm the status of things. Just information for you all. And just a quick update, we are working towards providing title information, a title opinion from our office to the district such that our consultant working on North Park will be able to certify to the Lake Worth Drainage District that we have a title on the east side, and that we're able to coordinate and to communicate with and to organize with the Lake Worth Drainage District for future development on the east side. Nothing untoward. It was requested by by Miller Legg, and we simply need to opine to that. They needed an actual formal legal opinion. We derived our title evidence last Friday, and we'll be happy to formalize that opinion so that the data and the information will be useful to Miller Legg to proceed with Lake Worth, which will then have a relationship with us, with them going forward for drainage purposes. And other than that, nice to be with you on a Monday night. Thank you. Pleasure.
District Commissioners. Susie, you want to go first, or Steve?
I have a question for Brianne. The sign for Ocean Strand,
If somebody was going to bring it up, I want to tell you that it's going to be done this week. But we're still going through the inspections, so should be done this week. That's all I can say to that.
I want to be there when it's installed.
I want to be there. I want to have my picture, selfies. Yeah.
Dave is here. Do we have an answer on disc golf or kind of a direction at
So
least?
at the meeting when this was talked about and CGA gave their opinion, it came down to a very small acreage available at Sugar Sand for it. And so I appreciate that 3 months is all it took in Fort Lauderdale. It will take much more than 3 months in the city of Boca. I mean, it took us 3 years to get a trail at Ocean Strand. So I know in an environmentally sensitive area at Sugar Sand, it's going to take time. If the board wants to add that project on next year, we will, contract with WZA or CGA to design something, but we're very limited on Tract A with the easements, with the environmental issues that the city is going to have. I mean, they indicated that there's concern because it's environmentally sensitive land, and we see that at Patrick Pickleball where we had to recreate a space. I think that there's opportunities at other places like North Park. I mean, there is there's wooded areas over there. I don't know if you've ever driven over there, but there's a lot of wooded areas. I mean, happy to work on the project, but if based on what CGA said and based on some of the responses from the city, there's a lot of unknowns. There's unknowns what they would require for parking until they actually see a design. There's unknowns what they would require for restrooms until they actually see a design. So a lot of these things aren't black and white in the code, and it's at city staff discretion. I happy to do it. I've seen him out. I've seen him at Okehele Park. I've seen people playing disc golf. So I know it's a recreational amenity that we don't have in the city, but I think Sugar Sand is going to be a process. I would love to say that we could get something done in 3 months, but it just won't happen that fast. Because we have to put concrete in, we have to put trails in. It's a process.
I'm fine with that. Our customer is here. I just want to make sure he understands that, and we all agree to that. And, I would just say that the same thing applies to the tower. I mean, if they can put a tower in, it's going to take them a long time to do it. I'm okay with it, but, Dave, I hope you understand it. The concept here is, from what we understand at Sugar Sand, it's only can be in Track A.
Correct.
Track A is limited to how much of,
I think by the time they worked out where things are now and the easements that are out there, it was like 7 or 8 acres left that we
so
could.
the
put it on.
challenge is ultimately through the approval process and opening a kind of a can of worms at Sugar Sand with the city to,
Yes. And I think I sent you the staff comments on it. The city staff were concerned about the Frisbees flying, how they would be contained in the park, how they would not hurt other people. I mean, there's a lot of questions, and I based on that initial meeting with city staff, I think we would have a lot of work to do to get approved.
so as an alternative, we can look at it to where it might fit within the North Park, if that's an opportunity.
Mhm.
And so that would probably be easier because it's planned out, but we're not done. We're not nearly where we want to be with North Park. And so it's going to have to take some time. Another alternative is just to use Ocean Strand as a free base. I mean, it's not marked off, it's not anything, but it's very open. If coordination of things, maybe we could just not installing cement or anything like that, but people can go to a park, and it's probably one of the most wide open parks. So for free use. So, is that okay?
Comments back from the city, and we were kind of all in agreement, like it needs to be put on hold, and maybe there would be better opportunities at another place. So that's kind of where we're at the moment with disc golf. So,
That's it. Okay.
Is that when I first got on the commission, the budget process took a month. It was laborious. The manuals were this thick, in different colors. I mean, for us to have a budget in the city that looks like this, and I was prepared. I said, you know, my wife said, "What time will you be home?" I said, "Oh, 8:30, 9 o'clock." But I mean, with the work that Greg put into it, I think it made it easier for us to get our head around the bigger components. You know, the smaller things like we discussed don't add up to much at all, but they're things that I'd rather not have to pay for. But you know, and no, that's the city's program that they have for their employees. I'm just delighted that after one meeting, we, you know, can say that, you know, we're pretty comfortable with this is going forward with the elimination of a few things that we've discussed already.
I want to add that each of you has dedicated time outside of this meeting to meet with me, to answer questions, to go through it, some more than others. But everybody's taken a good time out of your personal lives and schedules to meet and go through this budget too. So it's not a process that happens just in 15 minutes of discussion here. They've all spent a lot of time reviewing things, sending me notes, and getting things answered. So
Well,
thank you for that.
and I don't want to overlook that either, you know, because in the past, we didn't have those little fireside chats like we have done with each individual. And then a couple of years ago, when we actually met with Michael, the deputy director, and individually, and with the way that Greg outlined it, we didn't have to do that. I mean, you're very familiar with the process too, Brianne. So that facilitated an easier process that we have this evening. So while it may look easy to the public, behind the scenes, like you said, you know, there is some work going on to so that we're comfortable with the numbers. And I can't imagine you sitting in with our treasurer, because I can only imagine Craig's very thorough, and if Craig was satisfied, I was breathing a sigh of relief because I was prepared to listen, because he has always had some good comments about our budgetary process. And thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. But
No one is sighing a relief more than me. So
yes. So, but anyway, thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me run on about this. But I think it's we have put together a good budget so far, and with some fine tuning, we'll get it even better. So, thank you.
I want to echo what Bob just said. This is since 2010 when I started going through the orange and then the green and then the blue and then the pink. Literally, we would go through 5 different budgets. I don't know how many trees we killed. So thank you, everybody. Merv, wherever you are listening from, thank you very much too, because I know he's been working with you. So, and again, Greg and Tiffany and your staff, thank you.
On all that. Thank you. All right, future agenda items then are the North Park.
we're gonna have a North Park
racket
update.
facility
We need to talk about the racket
RFP.
facility.
Should be a good topic. Looking forward to that. Anything else?
Hopefully we'll have confirmation on the joint meeting items. The city has their workshop today and their meeting tomorrow night. So I don't know if it was discussed yet. I didn't have a chance to watch that today, but I'll watch it tomorrow. And hopefully hear back from the city clerk to confirm those. And then we'll probably need to talk about those items as well, if anything's changed.
Be able to talk about the facility at Patrice pickleball RFP, since we're getting it back this week.
It depends on everybody's schedules. If they have, I don't know how many we're gonna get. If we get like 20 of them, I
Right.
don't know that everybody's gonna have a chance to read all of them in a week, but
Okay.
we'll see what we get.
Anybody else have anything? Agenda items?
Move to adjourn?
Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang? And Commissioner Wright? Motion passes.
We are adjourned.